Amazon Prime's Invincible has leapt from the pages of Robert Kirkman's critically acclaimed comic series to bring its story to a wider audience. With great characters, brutal violence, wry humor, and a stellar lineup of vocal talent, it's no surprise this series has already been given an additional 2 seasons. So join us as we sit down with this first season of Invincible today on...
Hello
What
and
if
welcome.
I was gonna start off with a joke, but no, you can
Go
do
for
that.
it. What's the joke?
Okay. What if he was actually just a superhero who you couldn't see, and he called himself invisible?
Well, that's what we're here to find out on Script to Screen. Welcome back to the show, everybody, all of our lovely listeners. I am one of your co-hosts, Chris Kitchen, alongside my other amazing co-host, Zach Strackman. Zach,
That's
how are you
me.
doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How about you?
Not too bad. You know, we've enjoyed this nice little break, been catching up on our TVs and our movies, and I gotta say, we got some really interesting programming coming up. We finally got this watch through done. After some time, I did take my time watching the show. As I decided to watch it in a group effort rather than on my lonesome.
That is A-okay. I've needed time. I've needed time to cope because not personally, but I've suffered a loss. The entertainment world suffered a loss in the last few weeks. It's funny because the writer, artist, mangaka behind the series Berserk, Kentaro Miura, passed away. The news came out a few weeks ago that he had died a few weeks prior, and the family had kept it, quiet, and they had given them time to mourn appropriately and in their piece. Before the news was released. The series, to this date, remains unfinished. I was pretty sad to hear about it, because it's one of my favorite series. And if anyone out there knows Berserk, you know it was an amazing series, and it has some thematic similarities to what we're going to be talking about today, that of perseverance and struggling in the face of adversity, and so that, having a few weeks off from the show, from Script to Screen, gave me time to emotionally right myself, because, man, when it happened, I was not a happy camper.
I will say, I myself have never read Berserk or watched any of the adaptations that have been made, but I do recognize its impact upon the pop culture world, because you see a lot of other imagery and just games and just other material that are based. I mean, they took pieces from this acclaimed series, like Cloud's Buster Sword. I mean, that's probably the one that comes first to mind for me, just because.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen a
Guts'
big
stuff, that's his iconic weapon of choice.
If you ever see a big sad anime boy with a giant sword, chances are it is inspired by Berserk. Anyway, but we're not gonna dwell on Berserk. Maybe one day we'll cover it in some capacity, because it does have a few adaptations, a few good ones, a few bad ones. But right now, we're talking about Invincible.
Yes, we
Amazon Prime's new superhero animated series lit the internet on fire with a few solid memes.
I was a little late to the memes. I thought I got some of them, and I'm like, wait, I don't understand. Because I only finished the show like a week earlier.
Come on, Chris. All the memes, they were inspired by the scenes in the show. Think, Chris, think.
Oh, God. I will say, though.
I was just pointing to my head when I said that.
I the reskins of the memes are quite fun.
They're fantastic.
Omni Man and or I guess now they put him into Obi-Wan Kenobi and
and Anakin
and Anakin, all this fun stuff.
I've seen Woody with Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, that's a good one. Does he talk about
he's like you're a toy.
Yeah. So Zach, let me ask you something. What is your exposure to Invincible?
So thank you for asking because so it's a weird. This is gonna be a bit of a tangent, but it's gonna circle back. So back when I was like graduating high school, moving into college, it was I was really into like zombie fiction and stuff. Just like nowadays, it's not as like hyped as it used to be, but like back in the day, I was really into it. All the old school like 60s, 70s, 80s movies.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shaun of the Dead, which if you have not had a chance, go check out our Shaun of the Dead episode. But it's so I went online and I said I want a long running comic specifically about surviving in a zombie apocalypse. And I know, like, what are the odds that I would find exactly what I was looking for? But hey, I found it. It was called The Walking Dead, and I checked out the first couple volumes. I really liked it, and so I started collecting the comics, and I was reading them, and this was before the show had even hit. And in the comics, in the trade paperback volumes that I would collect, there would always be advertisements for other Image comics in there. So like there was like Battle Pope and others, and one of them was Invincible. So I always knew what Invincible was from that point, but I never sat down and read it. And the most I ever knew about it was at some point there was this mustachioed superhero that apparently was doing some very bad things. And there was a guy whose name was Invincible. So that's about all I knew about it before sitting down and watching this series. How about you?
I knew nothing about Invincible until I saw it on Amazon Prime a couple weeks ago. And then by that time I thought, oh, is this like another DC or Marvel adaptation come to fruition in animated form? Which, hasn't really been bad. I don't know if you're familiar, and maybe we've talked about this on the show, but the track record of like DC animated films has always been of like a very high quality. They're all for the most part pretty good.
Yeah, for the most part they're fantastic.
Which is funny because the Marvel animated films are not quite good.
Marvel so it's funny, they have really backed off of animated movies. They used to come out with them pretty frequently.
Yeah,
they were never that good. But of course, there's the big Marvel animated movie, which was Into the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, and that won an Academy Award.
It did.
But like as far as but I mean, as far as like the
traditional 2D,
yeah, that stuff, DC really has the market cornered on that.
And that was pretty much it for me. I thought that's what this was up until I guess I watched it, but then I realized it pulls, I guess, Robert Kirkman, the author, and I guess he's the kind of key person. Regarding the series, and he the writer, and I guess he's also the lead artist as well.
No, I don't think he does any art. He's just a writer. I mean, I know
he's a writer.
Charlie Adler did a lot of the art for Walking Dead.
Okay.
And then for Invincible, I can tell you who did the art for that. But
it's Corey Walker and Ryan Ottley.
Right. Okay.
Robert Kirkman is just considered the creator and the writer.
Right, and I mean Robert Kirkman, he's a great writer. He's when I was watching this series, I go, yeah, I can tell this is Kirkman. Something about his writing style is very recognizable, maybe in how direct it is or something. But actually, before we go on, we need to plug our social medias because we're really bad about this.
We are. We're 12 minutes in, and we're having a good time. We're having a great conversation. Thank you for coming to another edition of Script to Screen. As always, I'm Chris. That's Zach. You can find all of our wonderful episodes at www.scriptorscreen.com or anchor.fm/scriptorscreen. There you could find all of our past episodes, like I just said, or all of our social media pages. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And I believe that's all of them for right now. That's at Script to Screen. Comment on our posts. Let us know what you want to hear in the future. And make sure you stay up to date with all the ons going on here at our wonderful podcast. Zach.
That's me.
I am actually not... I do not follow Robert Kirkman in terms of Walking Dead. I've never watched Walking Dead in my life.
Really?
Have
you never seen an episode of it?
I feel like I've seen scenes, like when Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character Negan bashed some heads. I've seen that.
He did bash some heads.
Yeah, we will mention the name of one of his victims in this episode, but
actually, it's funny. You will mention the name of I think a few of his victims are in the show, because there's a lot of crossover between the Walking Dead cast, and I think a lot of them had like kind of guest roles on this show.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, I mean, Kirkman, I think he's a very good writer. He's very progressive minded, so you're going to see a lot of characters who represent a lot of different walks of life, of different races, sexual orientations. That
didn't bother me in this.
No,
it felt very natural.
No, it's fine. I think, for the most part, it was. So, I suppose in a show like this, where it does take place in a pretty modern day setting, and it takes place in a well functioning society, you can drop in those things, and it's like, it's not a big deal. It's just a fact of who you are. I know I haven't read the comic of Invincible, but I know there is some stuff that from the comics, when they brought it to here, they cleaned up a few things. I think or not cleaned up, but at least changed it to be more, I guess, time appropriate, if that makes sense. Like, I know in the comics, Invincible, his name is Mark Grayson. His best friend is, what's his best friend's name? William Clockwell. I know he's not a openly gay person in the comics. It's a plot point that comes up later, but I know, when they were bringing it to the show, it's like, yeah, it's not as big a deal as it might have been back then. So we're not even going to hide it. It's, it shouldn't have to.
Right.
So that's something that changed. I do think, and we'll get to it a little later, there's some stuff where I feel like it hasn't, they didn't change it from the original show, or from the original comic to the show, that it has not aged well. But we'll get to that when we come to it. But yeah, I mean, before we really dig in, do you want to give our fine listeners that synopsis?
I do. This is, I would say, a pretty solid one from our lovely friends at RottenTomatoes.com. The series info section of Invincible. From the Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman, and based on the Skybound Image comic of the same name by Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley, Invincible is an adult animated superhero show that revolves around the 17-year-old Mark Grayson, played by Stephen Yeun, who's just like every other guy his age, except that his father is the most powerful superhero on the planet, Omni Man, played by J.K. Simmons. But as Mark develops powers of his own, he discovers that his father's legacy may not be as heroic as it seems.
There you go.
I actually really like that.
Yeah. I mean, I know Mark himself does not find out until like the very end of the show, of the season, but other people do. So let's look at some of these people involved with the show. So obviously it's based on the Invincible comic, created by Robert Kirkman. Showrunner was Simon Rasiopa. I don't know if I got that last name right. It was produced by
Butchered
Rasiopa.
it. Totally botched it.
Did I?
No.
It was produced by Rasiopa, Kirkman, David Alpert, Catherine Winder, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg. That's interesting because Seth Rogen apparently is helming a live-action film adaptation of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I personally think is kind of a bad idea.
I wonder. What's interesting here is that his company, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's company, isn't even involved, from what I can read online, in terms of like producing the show. So maybe they're just involved in the financing aspect. So
it's
we
possible.
will see. Yeah, we will see.
But directors of the episodes are Robert Valley, Paul Ferminger, and Jeff Allen. And the series was written by Kirkman, Rasiopa, Chris Black, Ryan Ridley, Christine Lavoff, and Curtis Gwynn. That's kind of cool that Kirkman is also writing the series and producing it. It gives him a chance to go back and maybe make corrections and little alterations to things that he wanted to redo or revamp. For example, I know that in the comics, again, I just know this from like talking to people about it. I haven't read the comics, but I know that Omni Man's whole the whole plot point of Deborah knowing, like, investigating him and stuff, that's not in the comics. So they gave her a much more active role in the show, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
yes.
Next up, I want to say this is probably one of my favorite pieces of information from the show is the composer of the music, John Paisiano, or Passiano, excuse me.
I think that's Paisano.
Paisano, even better. He's known for his compositions of other television work, such as Daredevil and The Defenders.
I didn't really care for The Defenders as a show, but I'm sure the music...
The music was good. The Daredevil music, always great. I was a fan. But I mean, he's also done a bunch of film work. Funny enough, I love seeing this on here. He did one of the first Ben 10 movies. Ben 10 Secret of the Omnitrix, for all you Cartoon Network kids who have grown up. And I guess he's also known for the Maze Runner series, and more recently that Tesla movie that had Ethan Hawke playing Nikola Tesla, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of it. It was a very interesting looking film. I hadn't watched it yet, but I did want to see it.
That's pretty cool. And of course, like, the music also featured a lot of licensed music and some, I believe, original compositions from Run the Jewels.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the good music listenings, and we got our stellar cast. I mean, God, let's just list them off real fast, rapid fire.
It's the most diverse.
There's too many.
One.
There's too many. It's like they just are like they went to like one of the studios or like production lots, and they're like, who's got 5 minutes?
Yeah, I would say they took everybody from all walks of, I don't want to say all walks of life, but like the entire spectrum of Hollywood. You have like A-list to triple B actors,
to actors who are more specifically professional voice actors.
Exactly,
first.
like really great talent across the board.
So let's
hit them.
Yeah, let's go through. We got Steven Yeun as Mark Grayson, as Invincible. Obviously, Steven Yeun, we love to see him here. He was in Minari, he was in Walking Dead, and
he was our golden boy.
We were just talking about him in something else recently, and I'm totally blanking on it, and I could also be totally wrong. But that's okay. J.K. Simmons, the J.K. Simmons as Nolan Grayson, a.k.a. Omni Man. J.K. Simmons.
We have Deborah Oh, excuse me. I'm getting her name mixed up. Sandra Oh as
yes.
Debbie Grayson.
Boom. and Walton Goggins, come on, as Cecil Stedman.
You know, I don't think he gets as much credit for a lot of his roles as I think he should. You know, because
he's a great actor.
Between The Shield and then his film career, that I don't say thanks to Tarantino. Oh, he was in Justified, wasn't he? And then I think he also made his Marvel debut in Ant-Man and the Wasp as well.
Yes, he did.
So that's interesting.
But let's see, we got Zachary Quinto and Ross Marquand as Robot.
I love Zachary Quinto and everything he's in.
Zachary Quinto, he's pretty good. He's definitely has a very recognizable voice, and Ross Marquand is an excellent actor.
He can take on any voice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his connection to Kirkman through Walking Dead. He played Aaron in Walking Dead, and also he was in Endgame and Infinity War, playing Red Skull after Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back for it.
Yeah, damn you, Hugo Weaving, damn you.
And we got Jillian Jacobs as Samantha Eve Wilkins, or Adam Eve. Zazie Beetz as Amber Bennett. That's cool.
Are we going to see her in another film soon? What is it? Not
Zazie Beetz?
Yeah. No, we just saw her in well, I'm trying to think of the last couple things I saw her in. Maybe Joker.
She was in Joker. Right? She was in Deadpool 2.
She was in Deadpool 2.
Isn't she in Atlanta?
I don't even remember.
I'm pretty sure she's in Atlanta. I mean, she's in tons of stuff. She's a great actor.
Yeah.
We've got Andrew Rannells as William Clockwell. Kevin
Andrew Rannells is like we have the stage, the Broadway man himself.
Boom.
Come here. But I guess he's also done a lot of TV stuff at this point.
Yeah, and
I
we've
just
got
liked him in Book of Mormon.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Book of Mormon's. I have yet to actually watch the show, but I would love to see it.
Yeah.
The stage production.
Yes.
Kevin Michael Richardson as the Mahler twins, and I mean, talk about a fantastic voice. We'll get to a few others, but man, Kevin Michael Richardson did a fantastic job here, and Clancy Brown appearing as Damien Darkblood,
Mr. Krabs himself. I wish that we could go into detail with every single character in this show and what they bring. But if there's one I want to single out, it is Darkblood himself, because the thing I like about the show the comic book as an extension is how it takes from all walks of like established comics and all these pieces. Like Damien Darkblood is for better sense of the word, he's a Hellboy. You know?
He's very much a inspired by Dark Horse's Hellboy, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, and that's what we'll see a lot as we kind of get into this talking about this, is because it's an Image comic. It doesn't have access to any of these big heroes, so you see a lot of inspired by heroes.
Mark Grayson, Nolan Grayson,
right? But it also allows for a lot of interesting things of like, you can have a Hellboy character interacting with a Superman character, interacting with a Marvel type character. So I think it's pretty cool.
It is.
But let's just kind of like rapid fire some of these other people. We've got Mark Hamill as Art Rosenbaum, the costume designer. We've got Gray Delisle, or Gray Griffin. She actually plays two roles, but her most notable one is Monster Girl.
There's another character. There's another actor that plays two roles in the same episode. Funny enough,
who's that?
It's Justin Roiland. He voices two characters in the same episode, and I thought to myself, "What the hell?" He's one of the only actors that could do it.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as I heard him, saw his character and heard him, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, I do want to. I want to give compliments to Amazon Prime, and I guess, what do they call the Prime TV or whatever the hell the service is called?
Right.
Prime Video. because as well as being just a great, streaming service, additionally, Amazon has done themselves a justice by being the multimedia conglomerate that they are, because now that they own IMDb, you can pause your program of choice, and it works out great for animation because then you can find out exactly who's on screen and who's playing what character.
More streaming services need an X-ray feature.
Yeah,
because that is so great.
I don't like to pause things usually, but like in this case, it really helped out when I was trying to identify where I knew this person from.
Right.
Because then I get a face and a name and the character they play, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So just listing off a few more. We got Jason Mantzoukas as Rexplode. Jason Mantzoukas, I heard this funny thing someone said. I don't remember where I heard it from, but someone said he's basically and I know he has a pretty good career beyond voice acting, but he's the voice acting new TJ Miller.
The new TJ... Oh, like the people are replacing TJ Miller with him?
Yeah, because TJ Miller did some stupid shit when he was drunk, and has kind of been blacklisted a bit. But I mean, this role in particular felt like it was meant to be a TJ Miller role. And he has that same kind of like raspy voice.
I don't know if you're familiar with Big Mouth. Where he plays the character
I've not watched it, but I know of it.
Yes, he does. I mean, outside of the fact that him and Nick Kroll, I want to say, have like a great working relationship from other projects. His character in that show is also quite funny, and he does a good job bringing life to anything that he touches, I think.
Nice. We've got John Hamm as Steve, who's this guard who's at the front of the White House, and he's a character who they cut back to every so often, but never do anything with. He just has this loving relationship with his stepson, and they pop up every so often, but nothing ever happens with them. Which makes me think something will happen with them.
We'll see.
Then we have the Guardians of the Globe, and this is where you get a lot of the Walking Dead alumni. So you have the Immortal, voiced by Ross Marquand. You have War Woman, voiced by Lauren Cohan. Cohan, I don't know. Green Ghost by Sonequa Martin Green. Martian Man, not Martian Manhunter. Martian Man, voiced by Chad Coleman. Red Rush, voiced by Michael Cudlitz, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. Nice guy.
That's cool.
Darkwing, voiced by Lenny James. And Aquarius, voiced by Ross Marquand.
So, I forget. There's also Carrie Payton plays a character in the show as well. And he has a character... I mean, though he's like a very well-established voice actor as well.
Black Samson.
Yeah, he's in The Walking Dead, from what I remember.
He is he is both the voice of he was in the video game, wasn't he? He was Lee in the Walking Dead video game.
That's true.
And he was Ezekiel in the show.
That is true, also true. And not to mention, you also have like another cameo from executive producer Seth Rogen in the show for all of like 2 minutes.
That's right.
And I think at one point you also get the voice acting talent of one Mae Whitman.
Mae Whitman, yes, I'm pretty sure I heard her voice at some point in the.
Yeah.
And I know.
But there's just so many people. I mean, honestly.
Mahershala Ali plays Titan.
Yes, he does.
Dioman Hunsu is the Martian Emperor. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Ezra Miller is in this show.
He is in this show. They grabbed from every pocket of
it's kind of
talent.
Crazy.
I did not know what I was getting myself into when we started the show.
And I would be remiss not to mention the principal of the school of Reginald Vell-Johnson High, who is drawn to look like Reginald Vell-Johnson, is voiced by Reginald Vell-Johnson.
Yeah, it was. It's funny. Anissa pointed that out to me. She's like, I think that's I think that's Reginald. And I said, you know him by first name. That's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, the voice cast, it's crazy. Like how they got so many people into this, I'll never know. Robert Kirkman must know some dark secrets.
Yeah, I agree.
But so it's cool because, like, when we get into the show, let's talk a little bit about like some of the art for the show, because I would say it's pretty faithful to the comics from what I have seen. I've read, I know, the first chapter, nothing past that, just pictures, but I can definitely go like, yeah, it's pretty 1-to-1 for a lot of stuff, but also I would almost say they blended a little bit of that Bruce Timm Justice League Unlimited art style.
I could see it. At least in the in most of like the shapes of everything. None of the characters are really disproportionate to some things. Which is really great. It's comforting.
Yeah, all these high school students have like really like, muscular shaped bodies, which I think is kind of funny.
Not terribly muscular. I don't think. I look at Mark's character, and he looks pretty average.
I don't know. Anyway, but I think, and when this show wants to look good, it looks fucking great. There is certain scenes. Obviously, we'll get into some specifics, but like, there's certain scenes where it looks phenomenal, and I'm like, oh my god, like they knocked it out of the park. This is where the budget went. There are a few scenes though, and I know we might not agree 100% on a few of these things, but there are a few moments where I can notice where, especially there's a few flying scenes where I can tell they've just composited him onto a sky, and they're just like, he's moving between a couple of frames just to simulate movement, and I can tell he looks very static, and he doesn't, it looks very cheap.
What's what's funny is that this is only the first season's about 8 episodes, and in those 8 episodes, from what I can remember, at least in the first half, is that I didn't really notice many hiccups or anything. But going towards the end of the show, I feel like they ran into more noticeable, jarring bits of like animation distortion.
I think the problem comes when they needed to have bigger crowds, and a lot of times they went for CGI, and some of the CGI is kind of blocky and kind of janky and stands out a lot against a big 2D world.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, I know exactly the part you're talking about. It's like more like in the final episode when they're doing the battle over Chicago. And at that point, there's a lot of mix of like 2.5D, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily like 3D, but like it's just in there. I don't think it quite hit the mark. I get what they were trying to do, but I feel like accomplishing the same thing with like a 2D look would have been, if anything, easier than what they tried to do. And especially because this show goes from one end of the spectrum of animation, like in terms of quality, to the other, because you get moments of like giant laser beams like visceral. I want to say the majority of the action at the end of the very first episode is done, as clean as possible, and it looks gross, and they hit that mark really well. Versus, and we'll get to the action at post animation, but like, at the end we also get like really amazing kind of like wind graphics and all these things like that. So they know what they're doing. It's just there's points in between that I just don't understand how they allowed that kind of slip in quality to happen. And it didn't take me out of the show or anything, but I was looking at it like, that kind of sucks that they let these things kind of fall underneath the bus.
Here's the thing. I will say, I think part of it is that we are just spoiled because we live in a world with, like, the anime industry is extremely prolific, and you can, like, I've gotten an eye for, like, when I can see some absolutely stellar animation and when I can tell budget cuts are being made, and I'm seeing it more, I'm starting to notice ticks of animators, of key animators and stuff. I'm trying to kind of teach myself to look for that stuff. And so I'm pretty spoiled for that. And then over on this side of the globe, we have shows like Avatar that are just mind-meltingly well animated.
And the thing is, like, Avatar also had the opportunity to get, like, they had 2 different shows, and, like, we saw the quality jump between that time as well, and even from, like, the first season to the last season of the first series. By the way, if you want to listen to any of our Avatar episodes, they are available on our website and all the platforms of which our podcasts are available, and whichever podcast app you listen to. Please go check those out.
Yes, please. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Let's see when season 2 comes out, because that will be kind of like the real determiner of, like, was that just first season troubles, or do they need to kind of revamp their animation team? But man, this was a hit, and it already got 2 seasons secured, so it's gonna be here for a little while.
Yeah.
And I saw someone posted on Reddit where they showed the stack of all the Invincible comics, like it's like 3 omnibuses stacked on top of each other of, like, the complete series, because the comic ended in 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
And they show, like, where the first season ends compared to the rest of the series, and I mean, it's like a drop.
Oh, that's nice. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad that they have a lot of, we know how it ends. It's finished. They can try to adapt it however they see fit. And they have a lot of opportunity there. They're not waiting on some people to finish the works before the show comes out.
Yeah, they're not going to Game of Thrones it. But
before we move on from this fact, what I was referring as to, like, the technical animating aspect. It's called tweening.
Tweening.
Which refers to generating frames between 2, like, key positions. So when you have, like you said, if he's flying in one position going to the other, then they're just kind of putting whatever little frames that they need in, like, the most minimum amount possible between that, so it's not as fluid as, like, going frame by frame. But they did frame by frame part of the show. Anyways, Zach,
I said, there are moments where this show looks fantastic. In particular, when Omni Man goes to the alien planet, the aliens that have been invading Earth, and he just wrecks house there.
Can we talk about that? Can we? I want to move on to this segment, which I'm going to call the Violence Hour.
Hi, welcome to the Violence Hour.
We're your hosts. Let me just say, when going to the show, I was not expecting the amount of gore and the amount of visceral action.
Did you know going into it that it was a Robert Kirkman story?
No idea. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't realize he was related to Walking Dead or anything. I had no idea. That was out of my realm of expertise. It's funny. I say, I'm Chris Kitchen, Zach. I have this acclaim to love movies and TV, and there are a lot of movies and TV I've never seen.
That's okay.
And so
that's what this is for.
That is what this is for. This is just an open diary of my exploration, and you're all here to listen to it.
To be fair, all the violence caught me off guard too, even though I knew it was Robert Kirkman. And
I would cook dinner. I would make lunch. I'd sit down and I'd turn my TV and I'd try to watch the show, and then I'd realize, oh my god, why? Why did I decide to do this? And then my girlfriend would look at me and she'd be like, can we just watch something happy? And I said, I'm so sorry.
Man, so let's talk first. I mean, obviously, I don't know what your experience is. I feel like everyone's experience is pretty much the same when they watch this. Mm-hmm. You sit down, you watch the first episode, and you go, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's doing its thing, and it's passable, and I've seen better, I've seen worse, whatever. And then those, like, last 2 minutes hit.
Of, like, the very first episode?
Yeah.
It is, it is not pretty.
That is the moment where everyone's just kind of like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. I like kind of the risk that they take at that point, too. And again, an extension of the comic, most likely, is that when this came out, not that there are no adult comics that exist in the world, but they are given an opportunity to take all these things that we know and love from very popular comics and properties, but they are in the safe space that they can explore these ideas. Before there was something like The Boys or
Right.
Watchmen, or I guess not before Watchmen, but like also kind of like in tandem, parallel to that type of story.
Right, right.
They excuse me.
Oh no!
Hold on.
We're losing him. We're losing him.
I'm drinking water.
Live, damn it, live!
Explore. What if the Justice League fought Superman, and Superman actually fought like he would in the real world, or take this opportunity to show the kind of violence that actually, in reality, would come with these types of battles. These
Well,
heroes.
see.
Kind of like an Injustice type deal.
Yeah, it's definitely got. I mean, maybe Injustice. I almost want to say that maybe Injustice was
inspired by this.
Someone at DC was reading Invincible, and they said, "What if?"
Yeah, no, I agree.
What if we just made a video game based off this? No one would know.
Yeah,
but and it's. I mean, Injustice is different enough, and funny enough, I recently saw that they are coming out with an Injustice animated movie.
I don't know why they need to do that, but I mean, like we said earlier, the animated films are likely good, so it'll likely be good, and it'll just exist.
And I know that the comics really expanded on the Injustice story, so they have a lot to work with, and that could be cool. I'm down for that. But man, I think there's a part, when Red Rush is punching him, and then eventually just smashing his like broken, mangled hands against Omni Man's chest as his skull is being caved in.
Yeah.
It's moments like that where you're like, oh, they are just all blood and bones, and when Darkwing gets hit, and then Omni Man just takes him and smacks him on the ground, and you're like, oh, he's just a normal human. He's just a bag of blood.
Yeah, it is. Or I mean, when the Immortal gets his head ripped off. And that was, at that point, it's just kind of like, oh God.
You know what I love about that? Yeah, you know what I love about that fight though? It's not one-sided. Omni-Man gets the shit beat out of him that whole fight.
Yeah, I do like that. I like that we get to see, I mean, it's not, yeah, he's all powerful and he's the strongest guy in the room, it seems. But at the same time, like, all these other heroes, they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, I like, I made this comparison before we started recording, but like these Vulture Mites, they're not like Kryptonians where they're pretty much invincible, and anyone who's not a Kryptonian.
You said the thing.
Oh, I did. Splatter some blood on my screen for me. And then, but they're not invincible. Ha ha ha. They're, because in DC, if you're a Kryptonian, you are untouchable. You can go anywhere that's got a yellow sun and basically be a god. But there are forces on Earth that are just as powerful together as any of these Vulture Mites, who are more closely, I would say, they could be compared to like Saiyans of like Dragon Ball, where they're just like a roving gang of planet-conquering strongmen.
But we don't. I mean, we kind of get that realization at a certain point through, with like the reveal of some dialogue and some backstory, very much later on. But I still like that there's still an essence of like their culture that we don't know.
Yeah,
like I mean, because we're now in unheard of territory. At least, from the adaptation standpoint, what we're watching right now, that it's like, oh, we've never heard of a Vulture Mite leaving their station, their post before. Like,
yeah,
that presents an opportunity, and I guess there were weaker Vulture Mites before, or weak in the sense that, like, they didn't survive the cleanse that they held on their own planet. So what if there were some that escaped? Like, obviously, it doesn't seem like Mark is a very strong Vulture Mite.
Well, he's also like. He's like, he's young. He's, 15, 17 or something.
But they almost had like a Thanos-like kind of situation happened. I mean, not that they snapped, but they literally killed half of their population.
Right, and for the sake of making it stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say in like, I guess for Omni Man's part, his whole killing of the what do they call it? Guardians of the Globe is just like, hey, I gotta clear out anyone who might be a viable threat to stop our taking over of this world. But when you see them fight, man, like there's a part where War Woman hits him in the head with her mace, and you can feel that hit. Like the dude is staggered.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the Guardians and some of the heroes on this show, just because at before we get into all the mess, at least the physical mess, we start getting into some of their mental mess, right? We are given these like brief, like humanizing, relatable moments between all of these heroes and like their relationships with I mean, just their loved ones and just like, kind of their jobs and what they're doing.
Right.
So I mean, specifically with Red Rush, really. And it's really sad because I was not expecting for them all to be taken from us.
Yeah, they did a really good job of making the Guardians likable, but I also like that it's a good mission. It's a good statement right at the beginning of the series, like, hey, this isn't going to be a Justice League show. This isn't going to go the way you think it is.
They Game of Thrones us. They Game of Thrones us.
Basically, they did us the big old surprise.
How do you like the time format? Like this show is given to us in like 45 to an hour like slots.
If this had been given to us as 16 half-hour episodes, I think I would have liked it better.
Really?
Because there are times where I was like,
it did drag at a couple of times.
I would say there are two episodes in particular that I felt are kind of brought the season down. That like, listen, here's a controversial statement. This season could have been 6 episodes.
Oh.
I think that episode 5, is it episode 5? The one where Mark goes to Mars, and it's like the whole episode is basically like he goes to Mars, he gets in trouble because the Martian parasite creatures get one of the astronauts, and they come back, and it's all just set up for something that's going to happen next season.
Yeah, we got a little tiny glimpse at like the very end of this season as to like the ramifications of that whole thing.
Right. So I guess we'll find out about that, but I was like, this is just filler. Like, it's weird that
we've done enough series on the show to know that it's like, I guess it works in the first season, but it's like that still seems like a waste of time. Like we talked about it in The Mandalorian. We talked about it in where else does it occur? I can't even remember right now. Maybe a part of like Avatar, the last year, or not the last year, maybe The Legend of Korra.
I just think that like it's weird that it's like it's 8 episodes and we're still getting filler, and it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little too crazy, but also there's the whole episode 6 is when they go to the college. There's the whole episode of them going to college and touring the campus and stuff.
Your Ezra Miller, Justin Roiland episode, not a fan?
Well, yeah, so Justin Roiland was fine. Ezra Miller, I couldn't stand his character because I was like, listen, he's a cartoon character. And I realize it's a cartoon, but like everyone else's characters are so well nuanced that having this character who's like, I am infinitely more smart than everyone else, and my human brain will overcome any physical thing. And I'm like, he's clearly a bad guy. He's gonna go bad. And 3, 2, 1.
This show, however, has also shown us like it is playing on like a bunch of different tropes and ideas that like exist in the comic world.
Right?
Or like this series does.
I think it's fine, and like yes, the whole thing from that episode of like the robot men who are really strong. They come back in the next episode as a like a defense resort. Right, yeah. Cecil throws them at Nolan as he's going on his crazy tear. But I feel like I'm like, that's a weird compromise to make of like, we're gonna have one shitty episode just to have one good episode down the line. Where I'm like, if maybe give that a few more writing passes. Come on, there's a whole thing of like how, listen, Amber and Mark have this like hard relationship problem of like, he doesn't want to tell her that he is invincible, but he eventually does when he's like at the end of his rope and she's ready to kick him to the curb, rightfully so, because he's kind of an ass. And he's like, hey, check it out, I'm a superhero. And she's like, oh, I knew. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
There's the whole scene like earlier that day when they were on campus and he goes to become invincible and she's like, Mark, I can't believe it, he ran away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you knew,
then you wouldn't have reacted like that.
Yeah. So stuff like that where I'm like, this felt like maybe they didn't have enough time to write this episode or something. I don't know. But other than that, there's just a few...
was that not in the comic or something like that?
I don't know.
There you go. You haven't read that bit either.
Yeah, I can't tell you, but it might be. But regardless, it's just a weird oversight that I feel like was a little sloppy for them to make. I think
it's a worthy notation.
There's also, I think, some... I mentioned this before. There's some lines that have made it in probably from the original source material that I feel just have aged like fucking bread.
Oh.
There's one line
they're kind of like croutons now at this point.
No, it's like mold. There's one line in particular where I was like, I heard it and I'm like, God damn it, this fucking show.
What was it?
It's really early. It's like in the first episode. It's when that guy is he's the school bully is pressuring Amber and he's like, hey, give me your number. And she's like, no, I don't want to give you my number. And he's like, what are you, a lesbian? And I'm like, maybe 18 years ago when that scene was written, it was like, wow, boom, a lesbian. What a crazy concept. Right. But like, it's 2021 and I'm like, that's not weird.
They're having a 21 Jump Street kind of situation happening. You remember that scene in the film?
I don't know.
Did you watch it or no?
I've seen both the movies.
He goes back to the school of Channing Tatum, and then he like pushes the guy on the ground, and he's like, "Oh, he's gay." It's like, you punched him because he was gay? It's like, no, that's not what happened.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Culture shock.
I just feel like maybe there are places where they cleaned up a lot of the stuff. Like I said, they made Deborah a more active character in the story, but they couldn't take out a "what are you, a lesbian" line,
right?
But listen,
well, that's interesting for like kind of I would call this a progressive show, right? Asian leads, you think about that, and as well as like it's focused on like their family. I guess excluding Nolan. No, but like, I mean, and then you have his best friend, his girlfriend. I mean, they just mix a bunch of different, like you said earlier, walks of life together, and it's the most normal thing ever. And so the fact that they didn't do the writing is a big oversight. I feel like they should have looked at that.
But man, it's funny because as bad as some of those episodes can be, the last two episodes are so great. Episode 7 is just this crazy gauntlet of putting Omni Man through every conceivable defense that the planet has, and just watching him muscle through all of it.
Yeah, my favorite part, of the animation was that laser beam going down and smiting him from the sky. That was probably the coolest looking thing in the entire show. And of course it had no effect. And
right.
He's like $400 billion. Like Cecil has had a day. Can I talk about this? What are they called? Their group. They're not the contingency plan, but something close to it, because
right.
I liked how they introduced this like Cecil's organization One that it could like only be housed in America,
Yeah.
as if, and it's also like another it's another point that they're trying to bring like about comics and about everything. It's like that America, or at least like you know, our government officials or agents here like feel like they would be in charge of like international heroes or things that kind of go across the board. Because you look at like Guardians of the Globe, like they were, what was Red Rush was Russian.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah,
or-
it makes sense.
Yeah, and then you
Red
had
Rush.
I mean, that's the only one, but like they housed everything like here on like in the homeland, and they would just kind of, go to wherever else needed. Like Omni Man went to Tokyo to fight and things like that. Like,
Right.
As if no other country could come up with a system,
Well,
and they're perpetuating this thing. And maybe I'm looking at it a little too deep, but I just thought like that's
I
the
would
interesting
say,
point.
I would say that we've only scraped the surface. So who knows? Maybe down the line they might be like, oh, here's what Europe has going on. Here's what so and so has going on. Listen, when it gets to the point of like, we have space stations and we have heroes who can go to the other side of the world in a matter of minutes. I don't know. Maybe Cecil works with other countries, and they just
like it's like this idea of perpetuating like American propaganda. Like we're the first to go to Mars, and like the first to do anything like in the media that like we watch, just because like it's a reflection of kind of how it is in real life, that like we see these things every day, dude. And just life imitates art, or art imitates life. Excuse me.
Sometimes life imitates art.
Right, but it's like I feel like it takes a lot of like these like deconstructionalist like pieces, and it's a really great way of implementing them in the show. And I want to hand it to Kirkman and the team, because like I appreciate things that aren't like Watchmen or that aren't other edgier comics doing this, because in the end this show and the series it still produces its own story and establishes itself within the comic world, while maintaining all these like tropes and ideas that they recognize is currently in the realm of pop culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes for a better piece, I think.
Yeah. Let's also real fast let's talk a little bit about that last episode, because man, I think if you're gonna go out on a high note, this is one great high note to go out on. I like that it doesn't waste a lot of time. It's like it starts up, Mark sees the Immortal being ripped apart, and he's just like, "Get out of my dad, whoever you are!" And he like immediately starts fighting, and Omni Man's like, "Mark, chill the fuck out, like it's me." And what we get is this horrible string of events of Mark just having his world crushed. And I mean, and
his body. Jesus.
Yeah. The carelessness, the unnecessary, gratuitous violence that Omni Man dispenses with in this sequence is staggering. Like when Mark saves the pilot and sets him down, he's like, "Thanks, I thought I was a goner," and then Nolan lands right behind him, and right when he lands behind him, you're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah,
and he just crushes. He pops the dude's head, and he's just like, he's like, "Hey, did you feel good saving him?" And Mark tells him like, "Hey, you just killed him," and he's like, "Hey, he was either going to die here or in 50 years. Like, what difference does it make?"
Honestly, Mark's response though is the best thing he could have said. Like, he would have had a life. Like, that's the difference. And like, dude, Nolan, I hate Omni.
And when man, he knocks Mark into, I guess, Chicago, and the fact that like you get this like intense like 9/11 imagery of the building collapsing, and the honestly just very deeply affecting scene about where Mark is holding the building and he has to look these people in the eye as the building is crumbling around him, and trying to calm them, knowing full well that he can't save them. is I mean, when this show gets dark, it gets dark.
That's the thing. Like, when you mentioned earlier about the idea of there's a real life adaptation, I can't imagine, how effective it'll be at trying to convey all these without being,
Yeah, I don't know honestly, because
who's going to helm that? That's going to take good care in that and not just look at it for just the visual spectacle that it could be, but actually talk about the importance of the message they're trying to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, so here's an interesting thing: the train scene, where Omni Man holds Mark in front of the train as he his invincible body shreds everyone in the train to death.
Can I tell you something? I'm going to call you and fucking Ian out, because
wait, I didn't make this joke. Ian made this joke.
No. All right, so our friend Ian in our little chat, he's like, so what scene do you guys like better, the train scene in Spider-Man or the train scene in Invincible? Oh my god, Ian, I gotta tell you, that really made my heart hurt.
That's a pretty brutal scene, but I learned that is actually not a scene in the comics. That is apparently a television original scene. I guess they felt that Nolan's point was not being gotten across well enough.
Yeah.
So they added that in. But man, that is it's just like seeing like him like step on, like when you see like the person's arm hanging out of the thing. I knew that was going to happen.
I was like, please don't be just the arm.
And then, like when you see the arm hanging out of the rubble, somebody's been crushed, and he just steps on them and crushes them.
That's the thing. It's like this. Sometimes I thought like, all right, well, at what point is this enough? Because I feel like I got the idea.
I think it goes on just as long as it needs to.
All right, so I have a complaint kind of about the ending, or rather, like, okay. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would Nolan just leave at that point?
What do you mean?
Like, he left,
right?
Why not? And obviously, he realized like his son is just,
he loves his son too much.
Does he really?
Yes, I think so. What happens is, I think we see it right when Mark tells Nolan that he got his powers.
Him,
well, not that, but I'm talking like back in episode 1 when he's like, hey, I got my powers, and Deborah's like, oh, that's great, and then Nolan's like, oh, yeah, wonderful, and you can tell he's like, shit. And I think so. Like, part of me goes like, maybe he didn't care, and maybe everything he said was kind of a front, and there's a part where he refers to Debbie as his pet, I love your
sickening.
mom like a pet. Yeah, it's fucked up. But I feel like that's what Nolan wants everyone to think he believes.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, you have that flashback where he sees when he sees Mark playing baseball as a child, and Mark scores a home run, and you see like a genuine excitement and pride on his face, on Nolan's face, and he's this being that'll live for thousands of years, and he is infinitely more powerful than anyone else. But even like this slight shred of humanity, of this one moment between him and his son and his wife, it stands out to him, and it means that much to him that he goes back to this. So yeah, when he has his breakdown at the end, when he can't bring himself to do it, I do believe it's genuine. I think he's, he wanted to believe that he was this cold, ruthless killer, and maybe there was a time that he wasn't, but he went to Earth and he settled down for a little while, and he raised a family, and it left an imprint on him. And I think, that's, I've not read this series, but I've heard from people, they say that it is a show or is a comic that has a very dark story, but it has an ultimately uplifting message. And I think that's kind of what I got from this is this final episode was brutal and violent and sickening at times, but in the end, like, even though he is a complete piece of shit, Nolan, he couldn't be as bad as he thought he was.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like, I said this, like, before you told me this, but when Mark's response, when Nolan said, like, after all this time, like, what do you think, they'll all be dust. Like, what'll they be to you? Like, what'll you have? And then he looks to his dad and he says, like, I would have had you, like, that was probably one of the, if not the single greatest line in the entire season. Like, it was probably like, that's what brought it home, in a way.
That is a brutal, a just deeply emotional line. And I love JK's performance and the way they animate it, where you can tell he's takes
so
him by.
He's so great as a voice talent. He really is.
Yeah, but you can see that it catches him off guard, and he's trying to kind of like push down his emotion, and he can't do it, and he just lets out this tiny little like hint of a cry. And then he knows if he stays any longer, he's just going to be bawling. So he just flies away. And man, like, it's so good. It's so well done. And yeah, then the rest of the episode is kind of just clean up. It's just making sure everyone is, we know where everyone stands going forward.
I kind of hated some of the things that they showed us. Like, they were showing us like the little bits of like, not Ezra Miller, but like, what's his name? DB Sinclair or something like that. Like, oh, now he has his like government contract and his robot army is going to help as like the Vulture Mites defense system one day. And oh, yep, the Martians are all screwed on Martian land. Mars, excuse me.
Martian land.
But it's like, I'm like, all right, we didn't need to see all this. Like, we could have got that like later on, but not too bad. Yeah, but I guess that is what it is.
I mean, listen, man. I don't know about you, but by the end of this season, I was like, I want more.
Yeah, I mean, listen. You know how averse I am to watching new things, new programming. So I will safely say that I am looking forward to the next 2 seasons that we get, and hopefully they're awesome. And I
cannot think of a higher praise I can give a show than I liked what I saw and I want more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I think probably before we get to season 2, I will read the comic.
At least, like, up to the point of what it said. You should send me that photo, that Reddit post. I'd like to see that. Yeah,
I will. And it's... No, I mean, with me, I'm usually like, I will read it to the very end and then be like, they didn't do this. They didn't do that.
I tried doing that with some things, but, I realized I couldn't do that to myself sometimes.
I want to see, and I love that we have a ceiling that we have to reach in terms of, like, power scaling. Like, obviously, I'm sure Mark will fight his father again, or someone stronger than his father. But, like, even, like, Battle Beast, who we saw in episode 5, who just destroyed him.
That's true.
That's another character out there who I'm like, we're gonna see him again, and who knows what's gonna happen. But yeah, Mark needs to start like getting
doing some push-ups or something. Yeah, I know. Well, thank you, Zach. This has been an awesome conversation about Invincible. If you haven't checked it out, it's available on Amazon Prime.
Also, if you haven't checked it out and you've listened this far, spoilers, I guess.
That comic sounds. I guess they have collected editions now.
Yeah, they have like,
and you can also read online as well.
Omnibuses and stuff.
But if you enjoyed this episode of Script to Screen, you know where to find us. We're at www.scriptoscreen.com or anchor.fm/Script to Screen. There you will find all of our past episodes. You will find all the platforms of which you can listen to the podcast. And don't forget to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Script to Screen. We are everywhere. Send us a message, comment on the posts, let us know what you want to hear next. And, hey, if you have any questions for us outside of all that, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much. I am Chris Kitchen.
And I am Zach Stragman.
You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye.